As we prepare to read today's sermon text, amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah. I'll let you all judge if everything falls in order, but I believe that we're moving in a certain direction today. I believe everything should line up. Today's message, amen, is honoring God's sacrifice for us. Sermon text comes from Luke chapter 22, verse 19 to 20. As you prepare to read. Read with me, please, if you will. And he took bread and gave thanks and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Likewise, he also took the cup after supper, saying, This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is shed for you.
Amen.
Let's pray. Father, I ask that you will have your hand upon this word. I ask, Father, that you will speak by your Spirit, Lord, as only you can, I pray. Minister, Lord, do your work, I pray. Let your word and your Spirit, Lord, do your work, I pray. Speak as only you can, I pray today, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. As we read, as we look at the words of Jesus right there in Luke, these words of Jesus right here say, do this in remembrance of me. This is a directive of Jesus that he gave us. And Debbie was during the time of communion. He was about to have this. This was the very first communion that he was going to have with his disciples here. And it was blending, it was right around the time of the Passover, which we're going to be discussing today. By the time we get through with this message, hopefully I'm believing that we're going to have a better grasp of the old covenant and the new covenant, and the grace and mercy of God. Now, in Old Testament times, the Jews remembered what Jesus had done for them, where Jesus saved them by the Passover. The Passover that Jesus talked about. See, this right here, he's starting a new covenant. The old covenant had to do with the Passover. We're going to be looking at that. The Passover was a celebration. The Passover was a celebration that would be done yearly. It was a memorial, an annual memorial for the honoring and acknowledgement of what God had done to bring the Jewish people out of Egypt. Look at what happened with them. Moses first told the people about the Passover when it was first instituted, when over 1 million of them were enslaved in Egypt. And we see it in Exodus. Watch this, Angelina. Watch this, John. Look at this. And the year was 1491 BC. And we go back to Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 14. You also should have some notes right there in case you need them, but I know you love those notes. Watch this.
Amen.
Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 to 14. And it starts off, God is giving Moses direction to how these people are going to be saved.
Oh, yeah.
Now get this, they've been stuck in Egypt for several hundred years. And now God has brought Moses to bring them out, and God is now about to bring the people out of Egypt with a great miracle. He tells Moses what to tell the people to prepare themselves and how to prepare themselves. These are the actual words that Moses told them in Exodus 12. Verse 1, now the Lord spoke to Moses and said, and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. He said, now this is going to be the first month of the year. This is what I'm doing. And every year I want you to remember this celebration. Speak to all the congregation, verse 3, of Israel. saying, on the 10th day of the month, every man shall take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. Then move all the way down to verse 12. He tells them all what he wants them to do. He tells them about killing the lamb and taking the blood of the lamb and putting it on the doorpost. Wipe the blood on the doorpost and lintels. The blood is symbolic, dear John. The blood is symbolic. The first covenant. In verse 12 he said, Father, he said, when you get that blood and stain it on the doorpost and the lintels. He says in verse 12, for I will pass through the land of Egypt. This is the death that will be coming through Egypt, because God is about to do something, he tells them. On that night, and will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, against all the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. Verse 13. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass by over you. And the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. Verse 14. So this day shall be to you a memorial. And you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by everlasting ordinance. Read here. This is what God, Mama, this is what God was doing. That was the first covenant.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't change. The first covenant, God was going to do that for the children of Israel.
Oh, yeah.
The blood was going to save them. The blood was going to spell. That was the old covenant. Over 1 million people came out of Egypt. You all know the story how Pharaoh finally said, get out of here, go on. But then he came after them. You all know the story. But the covenant is the Passover. And John, they were the Jewish nation still honors that today. And they were called to honor the Passover and to do that on that particular day of the first month every year, and they continue to do that today. The blood brought them out, the first covenant. The first covenant. Where are we going with this? Communion, I want to talk about communion now. Come on, Mama. See this? Mama, watch it, David. My wife, watch this communion. I want to talk about this. What's communion have to do with this? I'm glad you asked. Communion is a celebration. The celebration memorial of what Jesus did for us.
Oh, yeah.
The celebration for what Jesus did for us. Right there in the sermon text, Jesus said, this is a new covenant. A new covenant. I'm doing something new. Guess what? He told Abraham, I'm going to bless you, that you will bless the whole world.
Oh, yeah.
The new covenant. What's the new covenant? The new covenant. There's a lamb that's going to shed his blood. He's going to be the son of Abraham, the seed of him who was Jesus Christ, who spares the whole world by the blood. Hear this now. He accomplished on the cross for everyone. That was the new covenant. The new covenant. Now watch it, but not don't leave me yet. Don't leave me yet. But guess what? I want to look at this new covenant. This is the very first communion at the table. We're going to John chapter 13, I believe. We're going to see that there's one disciple there at the table who does not have communion with Jesus. Who does not take part. And I'm going to ask a question in a moment. In John chapter 13, verse 21, I believe it is, to 30. Walk with me here. Now watch this. Jesus, it said when Jesus When Jesus had said these things, he was troubled in the spirit and testified, one of you will betray me. Then the disciples looked at one another, perplexed about whom he spoke. One. Now, there was leaning on Jesus' bosom one of his disciples whom Jesus loved. And then he whispered, as the lady said, now, tell me, who you talking about? Who you talking about? This is coming. Tell me, Jesus. You know you can tell me. Jesus tells him who he's talking about. Then he comes down to verse 26.
Yeah.
And Jesus answered, it is he to whom I shall give a piece of bread when I dip it. And having dipped the bread, he gave it to Judas Iscariot. Gave the bread to Judas. He said this to him while he gave it to him. Then Jesus said to him, when he gave it, what you do quickly. Get this, watch this. This is what happens in the confusion of reading. They didn't know what he said. They weren't sure. Because it said, but no one at the table knew for what reason he had said this. For some thought, because Judas had the money box, Jesus said to him, buy the things we need for the feast. Or that he should give it to the poor. They weren't sure. In the confusion, they got mixed up. Now watch this. Here's the point. Verse 30. Having received the piece of bread, he then went out immediately, and it was night. Point. He didn't eat with Jesus. He didn't take that cup with Jesus. He left. The very first covenant, the very first establishment of what Jesus said, he left. He got nothing to do with it. Judas left. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. He had other business to do. Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. We do it. God told the Jewish people to celebrate the Passover every year. Jesus tells us to do it in remembrance of him. People do it various ways and the various amounts of time. We do it monthly. Some people do it weekly. But you need to have a pastor there, a priest there to help facilitate it and do it. But so anyway, we do it. So get that. We did that day. But now watch this communion. The new covenant. Jesus said this is a new covenant. Now watch this. I don't want y'all to miss this now. What can we learn from this? Judas refused this new covenant. He refused. What can we learn from it? I'm going to take us back as we close this. A story in Bible history. This is something I'm learning in my studies. The year was 390 AD. Some of y'all have heard about this emperor. His name was Theodosius. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to give more clarity on it right now. Theodosius. In the 390, there was a man. The races are called the chariot races. And you all know where the guys stand up and he did ha, ha, ha. And they can ride like this. A charioteer. That was a major race. It was sort of like when my daddy, when people go to harness races, Mama, and they'd be racing. And there would people be cheering on these people. So there was a major, thank you, there was a major chariot race that was going on that year. In 390. Watch what happens here. But guess what? One of the champion charioteers that came out, that he was gay. True story. The champion charioteer, one of the champion riders of the chariots, they found out he was gay. And so the emperor back then, he put him in jail for being gay. A homosexual. Get this now. Watch for that. True story. So the people were angry about this particular leader this king locking up this charioteer, this rider, locking him up. And they demanded that the king let him go. Rather, it was the governor refused to let this man go. So the governor locked him up. So guess what? The people went up there and tried to break him out, and they killed the governor and got the man out of jail. So Theodosius, who was emperor at that time, was very angry about the people doing this. Now he was the emperor of Rome. Theodosius said, okay,